One time at university, I met a person whose God-given name was Lizard, and I haven't stopped thinking about them since. Which brings me nicely onto a game where you play as a type of lizard. Wait, is a gecko a lizard? Hold on. Ah, nice. It is. My lizard person story makes sense. Anyway, the game, Gecko Gods, is a charming little puzzle adventure where you play as a gecko in a mystical realm, trying to restart the circle of life and awaken the long asleep gecko gods of the realm. But is this colourful adventure totally Newt, or is it just cold-blooded? Before I get to it, head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you'll be able to support real people making real things and gain access to a whole bunch of awesome rewards. This relaxed and cozy puzzler follows a tiny gecko who, after being washed away from his home, finds himself on a long-forgotten archipelago, tasked by birds and ancient stone tablets with waking up the three gecko gods of the water, volcano and desert, and restoring the natural cycle of life for gecko kind. In order to do so, you'll need to skitter around the many islands, solving puzzles, eating bugs, and finding relics hidden around the area. As soon as we wash up on the distant shores, our scaly little friend must solve 4 puzzles to awaken the water gecko god and unlock a little boat to travel further afield and solve more puzzles on the 5 other islands in the archipelago. The puzzles vary from simple mazes to circuits, ball manipulation, and those slidey puzzles that you used to get as a kid, all of which are done really well and are satisfying, if occasionally simple, to solve. If I'm being honest, the hardest part of the game was actually finding some of the puzzles. The map you get would often tell you where the puzzle itself was, but if it was under the ground or within a building, that waypoint wouldn't necessarily point you in the direction of the entrance. So I spent a good 20% of the game's 5-hour runtime looking for the entrance to one puzzle, which, I've got to be honest, was pretty frustrating. The other gameplay scale on the gecko's back, if you will, is the adventure and exploration of the many islands you encounter. Each one can be reached via the little wooden boat that you control with your little lizard mouth. On each island, aside from the main puzzles, are a collection of bugs to snack on, relics to gather, and cave paintings to oogle at. Each island has a specific amount of things to collect, all of which can be found in your little journal. Though I'm not sure where the gecko is keeping the journal. Best not to ask questions, I say. Some relics require you to solve mini-puzzles or put together environmental clues, but some can be found just by exploring each locale. While you're out exploring and puzzle solving, you've also got a few little pot insects to headbutt to death, and a truly Komodo dragon-sized amount of jars and vases to smash in order to gain the lizard bucks. That's the unofficial name I'm giving the currency, which you can use to purchase all new colours and patterns for your gecko to flash. Though there are a lot more pots and lizbucks than you'll need for the shop, which did not stop me smashing every pot I came across even after I'd unlocked everything. My only issue with the shop is that little images of both the patterns and colours look nothing like the actual skins, though given it's easy to change back and forth the little mirrors, it isn't the end of the world if you're hoping for blue and got rainbow, something that'll hopefully be patched on launch. My last issue with the game, and perhaps my biggest one, is the traversal of our little gecko friend. As with most real lizards, our little guy can climb on the floors, walls and ceilings anywhere in the game, which seems simple enough. But the amount of times my gecko fell off the roof, the camera glitched or controls flipped randomly, resulting in me unceremoniously floating back to the ground, was very frustrating, which may be an understatement, as sometimes you'll need to climb round a lip to get out of an area, and the many times my gecko's sticky little hands suddenly became unsticky made me want to spit venom like a Dilophosaurus. Each of the big 3 islands have their own challenges. One tasks you with following a beam of light around the outside of an island, activating switches and re-angling mirrors to bounce said light into the temple's crystal. One challenges you with chiming all 4 gongs, and one requires you to ignite all 4 torches. And once these tasks have been completed, you are sent into the god's temple and begin working your way to the bottom and waking up said god. The temple puzzles are true labyrinths, with each solution gaining you access to new areas, be that with doors opening or the lowering/raising of sand and water levels. These sections were my favourite, despite me being deep underground away from the colourful foliage and bright sunshine. On that, Gecko Gods looks gorgeous, with a colourful but muted palette, soft textures and a beautiful blue sky that warms up even the coldest-blooded lizard. The lost history of the world in Gecko Gods is found in crumbling ruins, hieroglyphics and long-gone civilizations, but there isn't an ounce of sadness to be found. In fact, as nature reclaims those buildings, a beautiful world has begun to form. The temples and lairs of the gods are all unique and distinct from one another, full of elements of the gods' powers and elemental prowess. Music is where Gecko Gods really shines. The composer, Jasmine Cooper, really geckos with the flow of the world, complementing every ounce of the game with a whimsical, upbeat soundtrack that takes inspiration from Arabian motifs, much like the architecture of the islands. Your little lizard also makes a plethora of lovely noises, his sticky feet slapping on the walls as he runs, and his little squeaks as he latches on to levers and pulleys. The game ran well for the most part, on both PC and Steam Deck. However, the later game locations, specifically the volcano island, is rife with bugs, and I don't mean the tasty kind. I fell through the world, got stuck in rocks, and was killed by a pool of lava that had gotten wedged in the scenery, rather than risen as it should. Which, with no reload button, meant I had to exit out to the menu to get back to a point where I could play again. There are also a few known bugs in this version that the devs are currently working on, but the ones I encountered aren't on that list, so hopefully we'll see those being added into the patch notes soon. You can adjust a few settings to make the game more accessible, and can choose whether to play using controller or mouse and keyboard, though my suggestion would be to stick with controller, as it is difficult enough to control our little wiggler as it is. Gecko Gods is what it says on the tin, a cosy puzzle adventure that will test your brain, but not always in the way the developer had hoped. The puzzles developer InResin have designed are a lot of fun. They're clever but never frustrating, they're varied and challenge you in all different ways, and they speak to the smarts of the team that created them. My issues lie mainly with the soft underbelly of our gecko, more specifically the adventure side of the game. Not only can traversal be annoying, but some locations can be a bit of a pain to find. The overall game isn't very long, 4 to 6 hours for the main campaign, and an extra hour if you're looking to find all the relics and bugs, but hopefully won't spend too much of that time falling from roofs or bumbling around an area looking for an entrance. The story is minimal and quaint, and the game looks and sounds great, so if you're looking for a bite-sized little puzzler and happen to be goo-goo about geckos, then perhaps Gecko Gods will be exactly what you're after. Here at I Dream of Indie Games, we believe all games deserve more than just a number, so we've designed a very special ranking system all of our own. You'll want to avoid the yellow-bellied indie Krampus at all costs, but you'll be in a right tailspin if you get the brilliant golden genie lamp of approval. With its colourful world but slightly frustrating traversal, Iguana give Gecko Gods a bronze genie lamp of approval. And I think that's enough lizard puns for one review, don't you?